What can 12 years of training teach you about fitness and life? Hey, my name is Jay, and I've spent half of my life training. That includes cycling, running, rock climbing, and weightlifting. And along the way, I learned some surprising lessons that go way beyond muscles and PR. And today, I want to share with you those lessons. These lessons are not about how to lift with the right form or anything like that. Rather, they're about the mindsets that I developed through my training journey. And I think they might be very helpful for you guys. So let's get started. The first one is your life is your choice. Look, I know some people are going to disagree with this. Some will say, but what about circumstances? What about genetics? And sure, life isn't always fair. Some people start at different points and we all have challenges. In many cases, the truth is this: you have the power to decide and you need to take ownership of your life. Let me give you an example. I hear people my age say this all the time. Man, my body just doesn't work the way that it used to in my early 20s. And my first question is always, well, what's your diet like? How often do you exercise? How's your sleep? And the answers are generally, well, I eat a lot of junk food. I don't really exercise that much. I get maybe 6 hours of sleep a day. I work a desk job, sit all day, and I don't really move much. These are choices. You are choosing what you eat. You are choosing not to move your body. You are choosing to prioritize other things over exercise. And listen, I'm not here to tell you what's right or wrong. You can live however you want. What you can't do is act like these things are happening to you as if you have no control. You do. People say, oh, when you hit 30, your body just starts breaking down. But is that really true? Because I've seen people in their 50s, 60s, and 70s running ultra marathons. I actually just got back from running an ultra marathon and I saw people in their 70s running 65K and 100K races. They're still out there, still moving because they made the choices that allowed them to keep going. And these were choices that they made over decades. Meanwhile, there are people in my age who get winded after walking up a few flights of stairs. And that's not just because they're too old, it's because of the years of choices that compound over time. That is what fitness has taught me, is that I am a consequence of my choices. Personally, I wake up early, usually at around 4:30 or 5 a.m. I go for a run, and sometimes I do 2 runs in a day. I lift weights, and as a result, my body responds. Other people my age wake up, sit in a chair all day, and eat whatever's convenient, and they rarely move. That's not really age, that's choices. And let me be clear, I'm not saying you have to run ultra marathons or wake up at 4:30 a.m. But if you feel tired all the time, if you feel weak, if your joints hurt, if you're out of breath after just a few stairs, you need to take an honest look at your habits. Don't just assume that this is how life has to be. Your health is literally the foundation of everything, and you have the power to change it. Yes, there's a natural decline with age. A 60-year-old marathon runner isn't going to have the same performance as a well-trained 25-year-old at their peak. But you know what? That 60-year-old might be outrunning a lot of 25-year-olds who do not train at all. Because at the end of the day, your body responds and adapts to what you do to it consistently. If you neglect it, it declines. If you take care of it, it lasts. So the first lesson that fitness taught me is to own my choices. Because whether I realize it or not, I'm making choices every single day, and that's what's going to determine my future. Here's a lesson that took me way too long to learn. If you don't find joy in what you're doing, you won't stick with it, period. We always hear no pain, no gain, but honestly, if every workout is just pure pain and no fun, how long are you really going to keep that up? Intrinsic motivation is doing something because you genuinely enjoy it or find it meaningful, and that's absolutely critical for long-term success. Let me ask you a question. Would you continue to play a video game that you hate just for some reward points? Probably not. Same goes for exercise. Sure, a lot of us start working out because we want to look good or maybe look better in the mirror. That's really normal. Those are extrinsic motivation or external goals. They can light a fire under you in the beginning, but studies show that more than half of exercisers quit within their first 3 to 6 months. Why such a high dropout rate? A big lesson is that grinding towards someone else's idea of fit gets old very fast. If the only thing pushing you is guilt or an upcoming beach vacation, it's really tough to sustain. Now here's the flip side. When you actually like the activity, it doesn't feel like torture. It might actually become the highlight of your day. So for example, when I started rock climbing, I really liked it because all of my friends were rock climbing and it felt like I was solving different puzzles. And for me, going to the gym and rock climbing was a social activity. I'd see my friends there and we'd have a good time and we would exercise and talk. And it was something that I genuinely found joy in. And then that became an intrinsic motivation for me to go rock climbing. And then I went rock climbing like 4 or 5 times a week over the period of years. But I've experienced both sides, right? When I first started dabbling into not really bodybuilding, but something like that, I was obsessed with getting to a certain look. I thought that I had to look like really good. I was forcing myself through workouts, and I honestly really didn't enjoy very much. And yes, there is a role for that. You don't always have to be motivated to go to the gym. It's important that you still go even when you're not motivated. But if that just goes on for a really long time, like you're going for months on end and you're not enjoying it at all, then it might be worth thinking about what will make you enjoy the experience a little bit more. Before, I was really focused on extrinsic motivation when it came to the gym because I wanted to look good. But then it became intrinsic when I changed my mindset about weightlifting. And I saw it as a way of living longer, as a way of guaranteeing to myself that when I'm 60 and 70 years old, I'll still have vitality because I've worked out for decades and my body can handle doing things like going for hikes when I'm 60 years old. Finding your joy in fitness might take some experimenting. Maybe you hate running but love dance classes. Or maybe lifting heavy weights just isn't your thing, but biking through nature is. That's okay. There is no one size fits all. The best exercise is one that you actually do consistently. And often that means the one that brings you some form of joy, whether it's the activity itself or the way that it makes you feel afterwards. For some, it's the peaceful time alone during a morning jog. For others, it's the social aspect of a Zumba class. But basically, you have to make it enjoyable. Join that boxing class, try hiking, pick up baseball, basketball, whatever. It really doesn't matter. When you discover an activity that makes you happy, keep doing that activity. Intrinsic motivation, that internal drive, will carry you through years and years of training. And if you catch yourself dreading your workouts for weeks on end, that maybe is a sign to switch it up. Life really is too short to not have fun while getting fit. Third lesson, and this one is really important to me. Social media really is a trap. Don't let Instagram define your fitness. If you're like me, you've probably followed fitness influencers on Instagram or on TikTok for motivation. Look, seeing everyone's progress can pump you up to a point. But here's the hard truth that I've learned. Social media can warp our expectations and seriously mess with our heads if we're not careful. Have you ever scrolled through social media through like ripped photos of physiques and ever felt kind of like, oh man, like I'm not there, like this sucks. Like suddenly whatever you're doing isn't enough? Personally, I've been there. In my early 20s, I filled my feed with like bodybuilders and athletes, and each day I see people with like 6 packs and doing impossible feat of strength. I thought it was motivating me to work harder, and sometimes it did, but I also noticed that I wasn't as happy with the things that I was doing because I was comparing myself to other people's achievements. And I'm not the only one who feels this way. Research has shown that fitspiration posts often increases body dissatisfaction, especially in young people. Basically, looking at all those perfect fitness images can make you feel worse about your own body. It can even skew our perception of what a healthy body should look like. Think about it. Your feed might be just all ultra lean muscular bodies with perfect lighting. Seeing that over and over can trick you into believing that that's the norm. In reality, those posts often show very narrow slices of body types, usually super thin or super ripped people, implying that you need to look like this to be fit. There are so many different body types and you might be extremely healthy but not look like that. I remember one time, like I looked at this fitness influencer who's doing this crazy deadlift and they did it like it was like they barely tried. And I was like, man, I like live half of that weight and I'm like sweating, like basically feeling like I'm gonna knock out, feeling like I'm gonna pass out or something, and it just kind of didn't feel so great. It's never worth it to compare yourself to an image that you see on social media. Use social media as inspiration and not as a yardstick for your self-worth. Your mental health is as important as your physical health. Now, I'm not saying that social media is all bad. It can be a great place to find community or to learn new workout tips. In fact, there are positive fitness communities out there focused on strength, skill, and health over looks. The key is to curate your feed wisely. For me, that meant following those that inspired me in a healthy way. I love seeing people of all shapes and sizes kicking butt in their workouts. It reminds me that fitness is for everyone, not just the model-esque. I follow 60 and 70-year-olds doing marathons because I think that's really inspirational. So, all in all, 12 years ago, I thought fitness was about brute force and looking ripped. Now it's so much more. It's about health, longevity, it's about building discipline and character. It's about these lessons that I learned over time that have changed my perspective and have changed my life. I didn't learn these lessons overnight. Clearly, it took me 12 years to learn them, and they came through trial and error. If you're watching this, I hope you take a nugget or two from my 12-year journey and apply it to yours. Thank you so much for watching, and if this is your first time on my channel, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.